I invite you, for a moment, reflect on this. Have you ever noticed that confidence seems to disappear precisely when you need it most? When you're facing a difficult conversation, perhaps a health challenge, a business pivot, a relationship ending, a major life decision, or one of those moments where life simply doesn't go according to plan. Because here's the thing, confidence is often at its lowest precisely when we need it the most, right? Which raises an important question. What keeps you standing when life doesn't go according to plan? Because if we're honest, life doesn't always unfold according to our carefully crafted plans even. Businesses change, relationships change, markets change, health changes, circumstances change, the weather changes. And if your ability to move forward depends entirely on feeling confident, sooner or later you'll find yourself stuck. Welcome to No Fluff Spirituality. I'm Barsha Maya, and today we're having a straight talking conversation about confidence, conviction, and what actually sustains us when life gets uncertain. So let's dive in. I personally think we've been completely oversold the idea of confidence. The self-development world and the personal development industry talks about confidence as though it's the holy grail. Build more confidence, feel more confident, wait until you're confident, act confident, project confidence. But confidence is actually a very unstable thing. It rises, it falls. It fluctuates depending on circumstances, outcomes, feedback, and results. Most people feel confident when things are working, when business is flowing, when relationships feel good, when their plans are unfolding as expected. But what happens when they're not? What happens when our launch doesn't land? When the relationship perhaps abruptly ends? Could be a working relationship, business or personal. When life throws something unexpected your way, those curveballs. That's often when confidence quietly leaves the room. And that's why I don't believe confidence is the foundation people are really looking for. I think they're looking for something deeper, something steadier, something less dependent on those external circumstances. And I know I was too, and sometimes I still do, but I keep coming back to confidence, self-trust, and conviction. So here's how I see it. I'd love to share with you. So confidence says, I think I can do this. Self-trust says, even if it doesn't go to plan, I'll find my way. Can you feel the difference? One depends sort of on certainty. The other depends on trust. Conviction depends on values. Confidence often asks, will this work? Conviction asks, is this true? Confidence comes and goes, ebbs and flows. Conviction stays. And in uncertain times, that's an important distinction because uncertainty isn't going away. And if anything, we are living in a time where change is becoming the norm. It's uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow sometimes. And as the old adage goes, there's nothing as constant as change. The people who navigate that most successfully aren't necessarily the most confident. That's what I've observed over the years. They are not necessarily the most confident. They're the people who know what they stand for. Looking back over my own life, there have been many seasons where confidence was the last thing I felt. Times of real uncertainty, times where my future felt unclear, times where I certainly didn't have all the answers. and felt lost and confused, actually. Yet I found a way to still move forward, but not because I felt fearless, not because I knew exactly how everything would unfold, but because conviction carried me when confidence couldn't. I had this burning soul drive, soul mission, whatever you want to call it, or a calling from the heavens. But it was there, and I could feel the pulse of that. And I suspect many of you listening have experienced the same. Think about a difficult period in your own life for a moment. You probably didn't navigate it because you felt confident each day. You navigated it because something deeper kept you going. A value, a belief, a commitment, a knowing, a conviction. And that's the quiet force that keeps us standing when life doesn't go to plan. So this brings me to a simple exercise. When you get a moment, take a blank sheet of paper and draw a line down the middle. On one side, write my non-negotiables. The other half, the shifting sand. Under my non-negotiable, write down the things that remain true regardless of circumstances for you. Perhaps it's I prioritize my health. I spend time in nature. I speak honestly. I honour my boundaries. Perhaps it's I make time for reflection. I treat people with respect. I trust my inner guide. These are not goals, these are foundations. Ethos. Now on the other side, write down the things you don't control. The opinions of others, algorithms, timelines, markets, outcomes. How quickly things happen. How other people respond. That is the shifting sand. And one of the most powerful things we can do is stop building our identity on shifting sand. The non-negotiables, they form principles that remain intact when everything around you is changing. So these, we could call them conviction pillars. They are the truths you choose to stand on regardless of circumstances. We won't go deep into conviction pillars or conviction. It's a deep topic and it deserves an episode of its own. But at the simplest level, your conviction pillars are the truths you choose to stand on regardless of circumstances, right? They're the principles, again, that remain intact when everything around you is changing. Now, the stronger those pillars become, the less dependent you become on confidence. That's the piece. The stronger those pillars become, the less dependent you become on confidence, because confidence will always fluctuate. Conviction doesn't need to. We can revisit our conviction pillars maybe once a year, yet when we do, we reset them. We set those foundations firmly. There's no wishy-washy going on. As we close, I want to return again to trust, because conviction without trust becomes rigidity, but conviction anchored in trust becomes wisdom. Trust allows us to stay open while remaining grounded, and it allows us to adapt without abandoning ourselves. Trust allows us to navigate uncertainty without losing our centre. And perhaps that's what so many people are truly seeking. Not endless confidence, but a deeper relationship with themselves, a deeper trust in who they are and what they stand for. And this is certainly the time we're all being called as a collective. Speak your truth, stand in your power, not in some ego way. Stand for what you believe in. Care for nature, looking after Mother Earth. If you're enjoying these conversations and would like to stay connected, you'll find links in the show notes. And if this episode resonated with you, I would be grateful if you subscribed so that you don't miss future conversations. I'll leave you with this thought. If everything familiar shifted tomorrow, if the plans changed and the timeline changed, if certainty disappeared, what would still remain true for you? Because that's where conviction lives. Not in certainty, not in perfect confidence, but in what remains true. Remember, confidence comes and goes, conviction stays. This is no fluff spirituality, business, life and spirit for the new era, grounded, clear, real. I'm Barsha Maya, and I'll see you next week.